You are for bringing your feelings, for bringing a testimony that shows that we are, first of all, people, human beings, apart from politics and other interests. We are all here for a brave message of peace and courage. And thank you very much, Lawrence, for organizing this, for being the core. This is also important to say that he was in between all the contacts and there organizing something very, very different in our context. We are very happy to hear a message of hope from art, because it's a fundamental part of our philosophy too, and so thank you very much for sharing this as well. Prima di concludere abbiamo la lettura di un altro messaggio, so I would invite Carl Gudenus to read the message from il Duke of Hohenberg, il nipote di Francesco Ferdinando. Please.
Hello, my name is Carl. I'm the son of Lawrence. I'm here to speak in behalf of the Duke of Hohenberg, who is the great-grandchild of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who we all know was assassinated in Sarajevo. We know what started that. Allow me to clarify right away that I am not an historian, a politician, or philosopher. In fact, I have no particular qualification to stand here and speak to you, other than by an accident of birth. I am, however, a father, a husband, an officer in the Austrian Army Reserve, and a Christian. And I feel a duty to try to do whatever I can in the service of peace. Just like all of you here, I want to safeguard our beliefs, norms, and freedoms as the basis for a fulfilling and peaceful life for the next generation. The upheavals of the last decade with mass migration, the total erosion of the traditional values of the West, and more recently, general warmongering, have prompted me to make a statement here. The assassination of my great-grandfather heralded the first catastrophe of the 20th century, which was preceded by a wave of moral confusion and ultimately enthusiasm for war, not unlike our current situation. Before I can speak about peace, I would like to take a step back and analyze how we came to our current situation. A divided world that is again steering dangerously near to a world war, and which is currently experiencing a war of a different kind. It is not a war fought with weapons, like in Ukraine or in the Middle East, but a much deeper war, a spiritual war. It is a war over the public and political mind, and it is fought with all the might and financial power of big international institutions. Globally centralized uniformity is the aim, and only those who conform are allowed to join and dip into the taxpayers' money pot. Most people either don't care or don't see that they need to care. Others bend the knee and comply because they feel they have to. But whether we want it or not, whether we ignore it or not, we are in the midst of this war. We must be aware this war is fought with very subtle means. There are no battlefields, no execution commandos, no gulags in the traditional sense. By redefining concepts and selecting wording, by changing norms through universal repetition of mantras in media, film and television, through changing school curriculums, selectively manipulating data with the help of AI, and the use of other subtle techniques. Opinions are influenced, cultural identities are shifted, our social fabric is destroyed, Our voting behavior is edited, and we are frightened by New World ideologies in a state of oblivious submission. Whoever does not comply is cancelled. Access to their money is frozen, work and travel permits taken away, and they are thus put away with the flick of a switch, as we have already seen in some countries of the so-called Western democracies. How did we get here? It always begins with a call for tolerance. First, we are asked to tolerate anomalies. Then we promote them in a show of civilized, unbiased maturity. In the next logical step, we legalize them and then even celebrate them, until by the end we are persecuted when we still call them by their true name. As Dostoevsky rightfully said, tolerance will reach a level that intelligent people will be banned from thinking so as not to offend the imbeciles. If you are tolerant of everything, you stand for nothing and can therefore be manipulated into anything. And that is where we are going. War is peace. Peace is war. It feels like 1984 to the world. Animal Farm. They are no longer works of fiction. Most Christians misunderstood and misunderstand tolerance completely. You know, Jesus didn't eat with sinners because he wanted to be tolerant, inclusive, and accepting. He ate with them to call them to change to a fruitful life with him. His call is for the transformation of life, not the affirmation of utopic ideology. It's about conversion to all that is good, truthful, and beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, our obligation to the next generation and next generations to safeguard peace is to generate the courage for the responsibility to save normality. We must influence not only our immediate surrounding, but our culture by standing up for normality against these normophobes and their destructive influence on our cultural identities and family. I recently heard the German expression Mut zur Verantwortung, which roughly translated means to have the courage to accept responsibility. This struck a deep chord within me and got me thinking. I consider a traditionalist someone who has the utmost respect for God, humanity, and his forefathers. A traditionalist does not long for the past to determine the present or the future. A traditionalist does not wallow in the past and does not gloss over historical mistakes. Through the lessons learned of the past, he accepts his responsibility for the future. A traditionalist has such respect for the cost of the lesson learned by his ancestors that he guards against amnesia with all his faculties. Let me repeat this. A traditionalist has such respect for the cost of the lessons learned by his ancestors that he guards against amnesia with all his faculties. The most obvious and essential lesson is the cost of war. An undeniably inefficient way to deal with conflict, which we resort to again and again and again, vowing each time that it will be the last. A similar lesson is that all attempts of instating coercive forms of government have consistently resulted in a misery of annihilation. It is neither courageous nor responsible to impose ideology disguised as leadership. Take the current trend of global organizations calling their uncontrolled power governance, for example. These organizations are heavily influenced by global conglomerates and their financiers, undemocratically imposing their interests and globalist utopias by stating laws which we have not voted for and never were voted by the sovereign, the people. Historically, supranational, overreaching, authoritarian governance has failed because of the tendency to overlook the identities of the nations it seeks to govern. If, as a nation, you do not know what makes you unique and what you stand for, someone else will. The nation-state format is a natural form of human organization, which not only cooperation between nations, but the precise safeguarding of the definition and identity of each individual nation. Let us not confuse centralization of power with international cooperation. Therefore, a truly courageous and effective supranational government should have its sole objective of safeguarding of the culture, the history, the economic, and the political freedoms of each individual member state. A truly courageous and effective supranational government would therefore restrict itself solely to supranational matters, ensuring the mandate of the people over the imposition of artificial agendas. In other words, bottom to up, not up to bottom. A truly democratic cooperation between states should respect the patrimony and legacy of each individual state. Unfortunately, European and global institutions only pay lip service to supranational principles. Through the short-sighted prism of legislative periods, legal and regulatory action becomes the sole objective. The recently ratified emergency laws, for example, voted by the World Health Organization, are an example of this dictatorial legislation. Power needs control. We are experiencing a concerted breakdown of national identity and personal freedoms, and are currently being encouraged to dismiss every belief, every custom, every norm, and replace them with a new truth. We obviously have not learned from history. I can think about a few times in our recent history when the stubborn imposition of ideology against all proof has resulted in unspeakable suffering and offense to God. So how can the respect of our forefathers help us to protect our civilization from the overreach of utopian organizations and guarantee a bright and peaceful future? I believe the answer lies with the man in the mirror. That's a citation from Michael Jackson. Very nice song. God gave us the ability to turn our thoughts into deeds. From deeds come habits, and habits shape our life. Where we choose to put our thoughts collectively is what shapes our society. God has given each of us the ability and freedom to think, to train our mind, to focus on all that is righteous, true, and God-given. No one, whether a believer or an atheist, can contest the validity of the 10 Commandments, or as one could call them, the 10 tips of life. Divine freedom and thought is designed to protect us from the tyrannical imposition of ideologies. Our Christian heritage is designed to protect us from misguidance. We are divinely programmed to know that there are absolute truths, and that personal truths are opinions and not facts. And they are merely a distortion of the truth. The most blatant example of distortion we are being subjected to is language. Language is the tool that not only expresses our thoughts, but conditions the way we think and act. In the last 15 years, we have witnessed a rapid change in the way things are called, and the new vocabulary uses euphemisms to distort the truth. Which sounds better? Castration and mutilation, or gender-affirming healthcare? Infanticide or reproductive healthcare? Censorship or safeguarding from misinformation? A different choice of wording will change your perception of the concept. It will change your thoughts and actions. We must fight against these mind games. Do not underestimate your God-given sense for the truth. If something smells fishy, it probably is. In order to be a vehicle for change and peace, there are everyday habits that we can exercise as citizens. Be attentive to words, to what you choose to listen to, and what you read. Be aware how you express your thoughts. Be selective and conscientious on your vocabulary. A responsible person exercises healthy skepticism of all forms of media and has the courage to form independent views regarding current events by following their God-given compass. Question trends. Don't be afraid to be the black sheep. Remember that if you follow the herd, you will end up stepping in what it leaves behind. Limit your screen and audio time. Rediscover the classics, the ancient philosophers. Actively seek the knowledge of our forefathers. Talk to your elders. Teach your children. Even the most conflict-shy among us should actively seek out opportunities to speak to others about all things and use our sense of what is right and just as a guide. Whether in a sympathetic environment, such as one here today, or in a more contrarian one, your credibility and integrity, your inner moral fortitude, provides most sincere and effective arguments. This just doesn't seem right to me. Or can you explain it to me? Are talking points that everyone can respect. Do not be afraid to speak your mind, even if it is only within your immediate surroundings. You will be surprised how many people will agree with you. To avoid feeling isolated and powerless, actively seek out conversations, with like-minded people to strengthen your resolve and spiritual well-being. When out among strangers, look away from your phone and try to initiate casual conversations with the cashier, with the taxi driver, with a fellow passenger on the train. Every encounter you matter, no matter how trivial, is a divine opportunity. You never know what effect your words can have on another person. Pray that in your own insignificant way, the Holy Spirit can work through you. Be sincere in your love of your neighbor. God will do the rest. Seek God's wisdom and guidance in any way you can, and have the courage to stand up and speak up. Finally, do not allow these trying times to make you feel like a powerless victim. Do not give in to feelings of insecurity or downright fear. Actively fight the temptation to cocoon yourself into comforting passivity and compliance against your better judgment. Discipline yourself respectfully. Question authority and opinions of so-called experts. It may seem impossible as an individual to fight against the corruption of the collective mind. However, we can take back the power from anonymous institutions. Change happens when you refuse to be conditioned by the status quo. Change happens when you refuse to quietly accept the omnipresent narrative. And to the end, a little citation. As Saint Teresa of Avila taught us, Christ has no body now but yours. No hands, no feet on earth, but yours. Yours are the eyes through which he looks with compassion on this world. Yours are the eyes, feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands through which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes. You are his body. Christ has no body now on